Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and welcome to Hail. It's Halloween this month, meaning that I am posting videos all related to spooky topics because of the month of October celebrating Halloween. For this video, I will be talking about my 10 favorite episodes from the Twilight Zone Season 1. Now before I start ranking my favorite episodes from this season, I want to kind of give a background of how I got introduced to the Twilight Zone and how it came to be my favorite TV show of all time. So I, like many others I'm sure, was introduced to the Twilight Zone from the ride in California Adventures, Twilight Zone: The Tower of Terror. In fact, back here I even have the bellhop hat for the ride, Tower of Terror. Looks pretty good. Maybe I should wear this. Bad idea. Okay. From the California trip, we came home and I found out that it was based on a whole TV show called The Twilight Zone. And so one Sunday I was at church of all places with my Sunday school teacher, and she told me that every New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, the Sci-Fi Channel on TV plays a 24-hour Twilight Zone marathon. And I was very excited because I loved the ride in California Adventures and I wanted to see what this show was about. And so I told my parents about it and they were all on board for showing me the Twilight Zone. And we turned it on. It was either New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Whenever the day was, we watched The Twilight Zone. The first episode I ever saw, I still remember, it was The Obsolete Man. It's near the end of season 2. And automatically, the show felt already so peculiar and grabbed my attention. At the time, I was probably 9, 10 years old maybe, but ever since that day, that New Year's Eve, New Year's Day time frame, I've been obsessed with the Twilight Zone. It's gotten to a point where in our family, it's just a tradition to watch the Twilight Zone marathon every New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Even if we're not watching it, we have it playing in the background. I love the Twilight Zone. There are so many reasons that one should watch this TV show. For one, it was way ahead of its time. Some of the themes and ideas that the TV show introduced were so ahead of its time and really got you thinking as well. Plus, I love the philosophical episodes and the ones that really get you thinking, or the ones that have that iconic Twilight Zone ending where it's just really unfortunate for the main character. But another thing I love about this show is that every episode is completely different than the other. There's no two episodes that follow each other. Every episode is a brand new story, brand new characters, brand new actors. Yes, you see some actors repeat throughout the show, but they're never playing the same character. Season 1 has over 30 episodes, and so it's hard to make a list of just my 10 favorites. And so if your favorite episode from the season is not on this list, I'm sorry that it didn't make the cut. This is just my subjective opinion, and I'll give reasonings for why each episode makes the list. But before I get started, I do want to say there will be some minor spoilers for the episodes I talk about. And before you leave, because I'm going to be talking spoilers, just think about it this way. If you're thinking about getting into the TV show and you're not sure if you should or not, I think that having a few episodes spoiled for you will help more than not help. Because in some cases you need to know the style of the Twilight Zone and how the episodes end in some cases. And so before I lose you to those who haven't seen the Twilight Zone, check out my video right now and let's just talk about the Twilight Zone. And to those who are fans of the TV show such as I, welcome. I'm excited to talk with you. The first episode I want to talk about is Elegy. Now this episode takes place on a foreign planet. Some pilots land on this planet. They get off their ship, not really knowing what to expect, but instantly they're shocked when they see a whole entire civilization with humans just like themselves, just doing what they do, except the catch is that none of them are moving. In fact, they are all frozen. The whole entire episode, you're wondering what the purpose of everyone on this planet being frozen is, and then towards the end of the episode, you see one person move. It's an old guy, and he introduces himself to these astronauts, and basically explains why everyone is frozen. The reason for everyone being frozen is because it is the only thing that allows peace to be had. In fact, the episode actually ends with the man who was on the planet actually freezing the astronauts as well. And his whole entire reasoning, they ask why do you have to do this to us? And his whole entire reasoning behind why he freezes the astronauts too is, he says, because you're men. And when there's men, there's no peace. That is so true. When man is present, peace isn't. And that's why he lives on a planet where he chooses for everyone to be frozen, because it's the only way that they can keep the peace. At number 9, I have the episode Where Is Everybody? And this is actually the pilot episode of the TV show. The first episode that started the Twilight Zone, and it is a perfect starter to this amazing TV series. It really sets the tone for what you can expect from future episodes. A man walks into town and kind of the opposite of Elegy. He's walking through town, and instead of seeing people, there's no people at all. In fact, he's the only person in town, and he starts kind of like imagining things. He starts getting really confused. He's not sure where he is and why no one is around. It's a fun episode because you're with him. You're in the same seat where you're like, okay, what is happening in this episode? Where's this gonna lead? And I'm actually not going to spoil this one because this is the first episode of the TV show, and if you're trying to decide if you should watch it or not, just start with this episode. It's a great starter to the show, and you can see how it ends. Number 8 goes to One for the Angels. This episode stars Ed Wynn. You might know him from Mary Poppins. He is such a lovable character in this episode. Basically, Ed Wynn, he's a street salesman. He sells things on the street, and one day he is visited by death. However, the episode portrays death in a much different way than what you're used to seeing. Death is a very business-like man. He carries a notepad, wears a suit, is actually played by the mayor from Jaws, and he's way younger in this one though. He has come to Edwin's character to take him home. It is time for him to die. It leads to a point where if Edwin doesn't go with death, someone else that's innocent and doesn't deserve to die will go with death. The ending is a very heartwarming ending. It's not an episode that you watch necessarily to get tons of twists and turns and have that eerie Twilight Zone feel. It's a Twilight Zone episode that you watch to have warm, fuzzy feelings inside. And that's another thing about the Twilight Zone. Not every episode is full of sci-fi monsters or sci-fi twists or mystery. Some episodes are simply just heartwarming, and that's what makes the show so great because it's so diverse with its episodes. Number 7, I have Walking Distance. This was an episode that I saw from a young age. I remember watching it when I was a little kid, and I've always liked this one, and I think the main reason is it's so nostalgic. Basically, a man is passing through town. He has to get his gas tank filled up, and if I remember right, I believe he has to get some repairs to his car at the same time because something leads him to walking to the next town. That's why it's called Walking Distance, because he's walking into the next town. But when he walks into the next town, it's the town that he actually grew up in as a child. It's almost as if he goes back in time. He's still him as an adult, but he's in the town from his childhood setting. In fact, he even sees himself as a kid at a few points in the episode. He goes to the ice cream store that he used to visit as a kid, and he gets his favorite soda that he would always get as a kid. It's just a very nostalgic feeling episode, and I think that's why I've always liked it. It's not like the craziest episode that Twilight Zone has to offer, but it definitely does hit on those Twilight Zone themes. Plus, if you want to see a young Ron Howard, he is in this episode, and he is very young. I'm pretty sure this was even before his days on Andy Griffith. At number 6, I have I Shot an Arrow into the Air. This was one that I saw for the first time when I was in high school a few years back. It was one of the first episodes I watched that I have a vivid memory of being genuinely shocked and pleased by the twist ending. These men, they land on this foreign planet. A lot of space episodes in the Twilight Zone, but they land on this foreign planet. They're in the desert. It looks like it's the desert to them, in a very bad situation where their ship is broken. They're low on water, but there's several of them, and so it kind of turns into every man for himself. They're in an awful situation and they're low on water. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil this one, so if you don't want to hear the spoiler, then just mute the video until I do a thumbs up. Okay, so spoiler time. This episode really caught me off guard when the final man who has killed the other men, he's the only one left over, and you're wondering, okay, how is he going to survive on this planet? It's the end of the episode that he walks over a hill and he sees telephone wires. And then he sees a sign that says, "Welcome to Nevada." I believe it's Nevada, or it says some sort of welcome to sign. And then the episode ends. And so you're left wondering, wow, like, okay, so this guy's on Earth the whole time. He's most likely going to be saved, but will he have to pay for the crime of murdering his crewmates? So many questions. And I love this episode. It was one of the first episodes that really shook me with the twist ending. The reason it's called I Shot an Arrow into the Air is from the old poem, "I shot an arrow into the air where it landed, I know not where." Something like that. Rod Serling says it in the episode, but it's just such a fitting title and a really good episode. Okay, you can unmute now. Number 5, I have Mirror Image, which stars the great Vera Miles. If you've seen the movie Psycho, you'll recognize Vera Miles as the one who plays Marion's sister. She's great in this episode. This episode is very creepy. It's actually partially what inspired Jordan Peele to make the movie Us. The episode takes place in a train station. Vera Miles, her character, is sitting in the train station waiting for the next train to come. While she's waiting there, she sees her twin, a mirror image of herself. Any person that she tells, they don't believe her. They think she's going crazy. But it's so haunting because when you see the other versions of yourself, it's almost like they have like an evil side to them. Like for an example, she sees her twin and the twin like smiles back at her. It's so perfect for the Twilight Zone. Like things are being moved around that she didn't move around. she's talking to the ticket master and he says, you just talked to me 2 minutes ago. And she's like, I haven't talked to you at all. And so it like really builds up that, oh my gosh, there really is a double version of herself. It's just that iconic Twilight Zone episode. If you've seen the show, you've likely seen this episode because it's a really good one. Number 4, I have A Stop at Willoughby. Willoughby! Willoughby! That probably made no sense if you haven't seen the episode. A Stop at Willoughby follows a man who is kind of having a midlife crisis. He's working for a company that doesn't appreciate him. He doesn't like his job. He's yelled at work. In fact, he's yelled at to the point where he tells his boss to shut up, but he doesn't even like tell him to just like be quiet. He literally says, "Fat boy, why don't you shut your mouth?" It's like one of the best Twilight Zone quotes of the entire show. I love it. But one night he's traveling home on the train, he falls asleep, and when he wakes up, he's magically in this new destination called Willoughby. Willoughby is basically like a dream escape from the hard world that he's living in. It's his opportunity to find peace, to find happiness, to just have a carefree life. Just the feeling that you as an audience has when you're watching him in Willoughby, it's just such a warm, like heartwarming episode, I guess. And I actually really like the ending too. And number 3 goes to Nightmare as a Child. This episode creeped me out when I was a kid. I'm not going to spoil this one, but I'm going to give you just a general idea of what happens in this episode. So basically, this teacher, she comes home one day and there's a little girl sitting on her stairs. She lets the little girl in for some hot chocolate, and the little girl knows way more about this teacher than she should. I mean, this little girl is a stranger. Why does she know so much about this teacher? She knows so many facts down to a scar that she has on her arm. She knows the way that she likes to drink her hot chocolate. She knows all these details about her, and you as the viewer are like, why does this little girl know this? But as the episode progresses, it makes more and more sense. The mysteries are unfolded, and you get an amazing conclusion. At number 2, we have The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, which is not only one of my favorites of season 1, but one of my favorites of the entire show. The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street takes place in a normal neighborhood where a bunch of people are friends, they get along, they have parties together, but one night there is an announcement that monsters are coming to Maple Street. Basically, they think that aliens are invading and they start accusing other neighbors of being the aliens because they introduce the idea of aliens being able to disguise themselves as humans. And so absolute chaos pursues. And I'm not going to spoil this one either, but the cool thing about this episode is you see the true nature of people when they're in distress. There's a cool quote in this episode that just says, "We'll let them destroy themselves." And I love that quote so much. But coming in at number 1, it's got to go to Time Enough at Last, starring Burgess Meredith. Burgess Meredith had a great career. He's probably most well known for playing Mickey in the Rocky movies, but he's just so lovable in this episode. The episode follows a man who loves to read. He works at a bank, and during his breaks, he'll read on his breaks. When he's at home, he'll read at home. He doesn't really have that good of a home life. His wife doesn't really like him. She's always irritated of how much he loves reading. Something goes wrong in the world, and he finally has enough time to just sit down and read as much as he wants without having any distractions from work or from his wife or from anyone else. But then it has the iconic Twilight Zone ending that you're just gonna have to watch to see for yourself. I don't want to say anything more about this episode. I just think you should watch it. If you're thinking about starting the show, I hope that I was able to convince you in one way or another. It's my favorite TV show of all time, and I promise you that you will find at least one episode that speaks volumes to you, because that's how the Twilight Zone is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.